Hey everyone, we are proud to be a part of the W2M network and wanted to take a quick moment to give you an update regarding the W2M network feed. If you've subscribed to the Source Material Comics feed, nothing will change. However, due to some new policies by Spreaker, if you listen to us on the W2M Net podcast feed, along with all of the other great W2M Net shows, that feed will soon cease to exist. Shows like the Rattlich and Broadcasting Network, Video Games to the Max, Talk the Keki, and others in the description of this episode will still have their own dedicated feeds, so punch in their name in your podcatcher and subscribe. All right, on with the show.
Unspoken Issues.
Hey everybody, it is intro time. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up. So this is the second part of our discussion of the Pizza Hut comics. Previously, you should have been able to check out the X-Men Collector's Edition comics, which were 4 issues that were given away at Pizza Hut in '93. This episode, we're going to be talking about the Creator's Choice comics, which there were 2 of them, came at the end of '93. They were packaged in with some video cassettes that were being sold at Pizza Hut. Then you have the Real Heroes 4 issues that were also found at Pizza Hut. We'll be discussing those in this podcast as well. There's a little bit of extra content here at the end of this episode, stuff that I didn't want to hit the cutting room floor and go away, so feel free to listen to me stumble through my synopsis and get corrected by Dean and Darry, and maybe get a little roasted at the same time. So, thanks for listening. Let's get to it. Moving on here, we're heading into the end of '93, and this is the Creator's Choice comics. These are the smaller size comics that came with a VHS tape, or at least you could get the VHS tape. I don't know, you could probably get the comics separate. That's the way I remember it, because I got volume 2 of the VHS tape, which the tapes had episodes of the animated series on them, right?
I think the first couple, right? Like they had a Night of the Sentinels and then maybe one with Magneto.
Yeah, I think so. The title of this story is One Good Mutant. 2 issues, Scott Lobdell writing. We got some different pencilers and inkers here. So on our first issue, we got Alex Savick penciling, and then Greg Adams inking, Rick Parker on the letters, Paul Becton on colors. And then One Good Mutant Part 2 has Ron Lim on pencils, Bill Anderson on inks, Rick Parker on letters, and George Roussos on colors. So here we go. Sit back and enjoy a tale. One Good Mutant. The X-Men have been called to a Texas high school to stop an out-of-control teen who just discovered they were a mutant. Football player Derek Beacon's powers have been going haywire, randomly creating dangerous biocentric gels that endanger his friends and others nearby. Or so it seems. When the team finally gets the boy under control, they are leveled with a blast from Mr. Sinister. Luckily, Jubilee escapes and hides under some bleachers while Mr. Sinister tells the X-Men that he had Beacon create the incident in order to lure the X-Men there to convince them to join him. While Sinister is occupied, Jubilee is able to talk some sense into Derek, who realizes the error of his ways and then joins her to attack Sinister, giving the rest of the X-Men time to get free of Sinister's control. With the team striking him all at once, Sinister retreats, teleporting away. The X-Men then turn their attention to Derek, who tells them that he has learned that he does not have to go through these changes alone and is glad he has the X-Men to be there if he needs them. That's the end of the story. We get ourselves a nice, touching story about a young kid who is quite confused, also going through some significant changes in his body, and he was able to finally decide to land on the right side against Mr. Sinister.
I quite enjoyed these. Again, I said this was one quick issue, and again, written by the guy who's writing this stuff. So it gets you in, it tells you a story, and it gets you out. It reminded me of the early X-Men stories, like the real early ones, because Beacon is one of these characters where he shows up, he does a bunch of stuff. He, has his own little personal arc, and he's never heard from again. And you can almost see this. Yeah. You could almost see this story coming out, and then some writer digging him up years later and be like, "Oh man, whatever happened to Beacon? We're gonna bring him back. That's gonna be the big return at the end of the summer." Mr. Sinister, man, that character was central on the show. He's central here, performing the role that I think anyone else in the world would have just given to Magneto. But it's like this guy got such. Everyone knows who he is, and everyone kind of understands what he wants to do. But it's just like, what Why with this?
Why?
Like, I love him. I do. I like his look. I like his name. I like his backstory. I loved him on the show. But every time I think back to this, I'm like, how did this random, relatively new character become like the number 2 or number 3 villain of this like storied super franchise? So I just love seeing him here. You know, he accomplishes so much more than you think a character like that is going to be able to.
I think I can answer the question. I always draw the correlations between superhero stuff and professional wrestling. And I think Mr. Sinister was a guy that you could bring in who, like you said, looked cool, had a cool name. Like I said, a name I did not like until like the 10th time I said it, and then I loved it. With the wrestling analogy, I also feel that way about the Lance Storm Just Incredible tag team, the Impact Players. I liked that the first time I said it. The 10th time I was like, that's a great name, the Impact Players. But I think that this was a guy who could come in. You can't have Apocalypse or Magneto or like the big guys lose too much. But you can believe that Mr. Sinister is a threat, but that he can also lose. And I think that's really what it was, you know, is like you don't want your heavier hitters to look too bad. Mr. Sinister has enough aura and presence to where like he can lose and it's not going to be as big a deal. That's my thoughts on it at this time, because I agree with everything you said about the character. Looks cool, does cool shit, cool name, involved in all the cool stuff. But at this time, they even wanted Strife to job less. So, you know, I mean, like, I feel like he was a guy who could just go out there, you know, and, you know, take the L, do the job.
You're absolutely right. You can have Sinister lose, and it's not going to affect him. Whatever he wants, it's not what he tells the heroes that he wants.
Right,
you know, he's not a fascist necessarily. He's not a big bully. He's not looking to conquer.
He's a eugenicist, and that's not too far apart.
I'm not sorry. I misspoke. I'm not saying he's not a fascist. I'm just saying that he's not like the Red Skull or Dr. Doom or someone who wants their name to be paramount, to have divine mandate, to conquer the world, to have everyone follow them. Even like Purple Man before you mentioned, like when he really gets into it, it's like you have to follow my every command. Mr. Sinister, to your point, his goals are a little different, and he's the X-Men's version of the High Evolutionary, right? We're not 100% sure what we want because he's not going to bother to explain it to us because it's a bit more mercurial, right? He wants the perfect mutant, though he's not sure what that is, and he certainly can't explain it. But at the same time, he dresses like the world's greatest Shazam villain. He's got this cape that doesn't connect itself. He's got this high collar. He's got bleached white skin, this Dracula thing. Like, I love him. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but I love him. I don't know why he's got a gem in his head. It's just, I
wish Tim Curry could have played him in a movie.
Yes.
But he just fucking nailed it. You know, like that's exactly who this is. He in a lot of ways is the loudest and proudest X-Man villain.
Yeah.
You know,
that's well said. Well said. Yeah. He's not hiding it. There's no
his name's Mr. Sinister, for Christ's sake, you know?
Right.
Like, he's like, listen,
right.
You know, I know what I'm doing and I know who I am. And to be honest, I like it. And I don't care if you do or not. It is weird in this issue that he refers to himself as a mutant, though, because he is not really a mutant.
Again, I feel like this was written and Magneto was in there, and then either Scott Lobdell or some editor was like, "Now put Mr. Sinister in there because we're really trying to, to promote him in the show."
Tom DeFalco's listening with the glass like it was the image thing, and he falls in. They're like, "What do you want?" He's like, "Mr. Sinister, we gotta have him."
Wait, it's Harris, right? Is it DeFalco or is it Harris?
I've heard DeFalco and I've heard Harris, but I just I assume Harris would be in the meeting that they were having about the Mr. Sinister.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah. I probably am a bad person for this, but if it's a decision I like, I give it to DeFalco. If it's a decision I don't like, I blame it on Harris. That's the way I break it down. I'm sure that's not correct at all, but that's how I go in my head.
You know, I would agree with you for the most part, and I think the proof is in the pudding. Tom DeFalco was a much better editor-in-chief than Bob Harris at either of Bob Harris's stops in that role.
DeFalco's a solid creator, and he was responsible for a lot of the comics that I very much enjoyed. Even now, whenever I see his name being interviewed or something, I'll always pop in. You know, he's got great stories. The best, this is a complete tangent, but the best is if anyone out there listening to this ever gets a chance to read about his relationship with Christopher Priest, please do, because it is a delight and it explains Spider-Man in the 80s. But getting back to these Pizza Hut comics, Beacon's great. You know, we mentioned before how nice it was to have Bishop on the team as a black male superhero. Beacon could join the team as far as I'm concerned now, and I would really be interested in that. I think it's great. I think, this former athlete from Texas who gets his mutant power and his entire life collapses in on itself. Like, what kind of superhero does that make? So
I don't even understand like the powers though. Like, I mean, I'm looking at it and I understand. I mean, I went through, I'm doing the synopsis and I'm like, what the fuck are these things called?
Do you remember that Sobe drink or whatever that had the bubbles in it, like the pod things that you drank and it went down? So, like, he makes those. Like, big.
All right.
It wasn't Sobe. It was Orbits.
I can't remember what it was called. What was
Orbits?
Orbit.
Orbits.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I don't remember. I wouldn't drink this shit because what the fuck? It's like, hey, do you want to have something to drink that you might choke to death on? Well, here, do I have the drink for you? So, I don't remember what it was called, but I appreciate y'all.
I don't know why I remember that. I don't think I ever have. I don't know why.
Because it sounds like the kind of thing that you would like, because you like city stuff. No, I'm just messing.
Let me just point this out here real quick. The cover of issue 1 completely lies to you. At least it feels like it to me. I mean, Beacon is messing Cyclops up with these biocentric gels, and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy's gone insane. He's going to kill the X-Men. And you get in here and he's like this confused teen.
It looks like he wrapped like one of those, like a pink grocery plastic bag around Cyclops' head.
That was the message we were getting out of this. Please do not put bags over your heads, children.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what they should or what they can't do. But yeah, that's a bad idea for a lot of reasons.
I read it much simpler than you guys. I just assumed, well, he's a football player, so he can throw like super powered footballs like that. That's how I read it. I went much more basic than that. I took a Silver Age approach to it. I was like, they were doing a bunch of nonsense to describe gels, and I'm like, oh, okay, so this guy who's really good at throwing things can throw this at you, and it's either gonna hurt or blow up or do whatever the story calls for. So.
I mean, our first page are like, there's like kids running for their lives with these bubbles over their heads. It's definitely a threat, but as to what in the world it's doing, I assume you just run out of air. It's like, an invisible woman put something over your face and you can't breathe.
And even if your head's out of it, that's probably sticky.
Yeah, it doesn't
look pleasant.
No, let's see.
Certainly, if you put Storm in one of those, she would just go crazy because she is like claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic.
The other thing I wanted to mention is just the last thing. Ron Lim does the art on the second one. Oh. And Ron Lim has never drawn a bad comic book. So
yeah, he's great.
That was a great surprise. I hadn't realized that. And we, for listeners at home, we tacked these 2 issues on at the end. Literally the last one I read was this Ron Lim issue. And this was great. I love Ron's art. I love Ron Lim's art. And I really liked seeing it here. Like, this is just this is an X-Men comic. The fact that you got it at Pizza Hut for free has nothing to do with it. It's solidly an X-Men comic. Absolutely worth it if you can get your hands on it.
Obviously, they're getting a message across with these 2 comics. This is one of those ones that's, there's a message behind what they're trying to say here. I definitely do not disparage it for that, because this is if you can give this out to people, number one, you're getting eyeballs on your product. You're getting eyeballs on this comic. You're trying to bring in some readers potentially, and of course, some watchers as well with the VHS tapes. Again, this feels definitely directed to get people to watch the cartoon. A lot of money behind it because of the cartoon as well. This is Fox probably like, hey, let's get the word out.
And it's a hot brand at this point, so Pizza Hut was probably happy to be associated with it. Like, Pizza Hut was big with the Ninja Turtles. Pizza, when the Ninja Turtles movie came out, like, Pizza Hut at this time was, hey, hello, fellow kids, look at us, we're the cool guys,
Now you can get the awesome Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie on video cassette. And when you buy the movie, you'll also get a free Pizza Hut coupon book worth $20 on some of your Pizza Hut and Pepsi favorites. But hurry, this deal is awesome!
Listen, it wasn't cool to wear it as often as I did or have as many as I did, but it wasn't necessarily uncool to have an X-Men shirt at this time.
Right. Yeah, I can remember, heading to Walmart when I was probably in the mid-90s and seeing X-Men pillowcases.
Right.
And I was like, Mom, look, I don't care if I'm 18. Can you give me this comforter set with the pillowcases? What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So they're giving these out. Not only are you getting eyeballs on your product, you're also getting a good message out there. That was the other thing I was going to say. So I'll go with that. Dean, what are you thinking here, man?
Well, I actually have found some information. So yeah. So if you wanted this, you had to buy a pizza, and then it was $5, $4.99, and you got an X-Men video with one of those 2 episodes of the animated series, and a useless 5-minute roundtable is such a, I don't know. I hope they didn't spend more than 40 minutes shooting that, because wow, it is dumb. I mean, I would have marked out for it as a kid, but the Stan Lee, Bob Harris, Scott Lobdell stuff, it just feels painful in a way. You would get 1 of 2 special ultra slick X-Men trading cards. That's a verbatim.
Right there. It's attached to the front of the VHS tape.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would get a limited edition comic, including a Creator's Choice X-Men poster, which I would like to get that poster now. But no, that sounds like one hell of a deal right there. And I remember when you got the VHS tape, that card was hard to get off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was. I remember
What you might have to do is get the guy from the Carnage concert with the knife to come and pry it off with the knife and just get it in there, open it up for you, because he can slide it in there and just get it right off. I had to do that sometimes with the knife to bring
it's an
that
hour and 39 minutes. How did you remember to do that? That's what my thing is. I don't. We fucking been recording for an hour and a half.
I always know. Listen. Don't you worry about it. I'll always find a way.
Fucking.
It always gonna get you. You never see it coming. That's fine. The diamond cutter. Boom. I remember having one of these VHS tapes. I do remember that card being difficult to extract. Oh, yeah. I don't remember which one I had. I don't remember which comic I had, but I know for sure I played that tape a ton. I think we literally wore it out, or it died because my little sister put a soda, she spilled soda on the VCR. And I don't know if y'all are aware of this or not, but high fructose corn syrup, not good for electronic devices. I thought these comic books were, like I said, straightforward. Like Darry said, straightforward. You said, just getting a message out there, getting your eyes on these characters. Getting over who the X-Men are, what they're about, what they do. It's funny that someone called them oh man, here's the X-Men's number. That's pretty cool. And I also think it's funny that at the end, Beacon's no, I just want to try and live a regular life. Buddy, you just dropped that fucking whatever that Orbeez or Orbits water bubbles on everybody at the stadium. I don't know, you're going to have to move to Manitoba so that you can have a normal life, because these people know who you are and what you're about.
I think people had known he was a mutant prior to this incident, according to what I was reading. I thought he was saying they hate me because I'm a mutant. So I think that was motivation for him to kind of ally himself with Mr. Sinister at first.
Well, yeah.
But yeah. It's okay, you want to live a normal life, you better go with the X-Men right now. You need to hop on the plane with these guys, because these are your only shot at even trying to, go back to a normal life somewhere, because you're not going to get it where you're at now. Well, best of luck, sir.
There should be some kind of happy medium between staying there and joining a paramilitary hit squad. But in the Marvel universe, there really doesn't seem to be.
There really isn't. If you live in 616, there's absolutely no in between.
Also, when I saw the Beacon, for whatever reason, I could not stop thinking about the Big Bang hero, the Beacon, which they do Silver Age pastiches. I saw the Beacon, and the way Scott Summers' Cyclops' head was in there, it looks a little like their Earth 2 Beacon, or Earth B, I think they call it. So I like that character, so that was an excuse to bring up Big Bang Comics. Gary Carlson, they do great work, man. Check them out. 90s as hell, but also not.
Should I talk to Shooter and say, hey, Kickers Inc. Beacon, just like this, right? Football player,
match made in heaven, man.
Yeah,
in heaven.
You're right. Get NFL Super Pro to guest star.
Oh, do it.
And now we're talking. And you know what? It was the 90s, so you could do Marvel DC crossovers then. They can fight the Sportsmaster, right?
Oh,
perfect. Sportsmaster and Booster Gold. He was a football player.
That's right, Booster Gold. Yeah, that'll be it. Beacon Booster Gold. Killer Bees. That's going to be what it's called.
The Killer Bees. Oh, wow. All right. We got 4 Real Heroes comics coming up here. This is from Pizza Hut. These 1994 Pizza Hut are giving these out.
Now it's time for the Pizza Head Show.
Hey, get a pizza pack with a Marvel card, a Marvel comic book, and a cup for $2.99 at Pizza Hut.
You can collect all 4, one each week. That's great, Pizza Head. And here comes this week's supply.
Oh, I'm seeing stars here.
That's no star. That's a meteor.
A meteor? Help, help, help.
Fear not, Pizza Head. Here's Super Steve to save you.
Oh, good. Hey, wait, he's not a superhero.
Sure he is. And he says you'll be safe if you stand right here.
Well, I'm not really sure this is the
See you next time.
Next time, send a real superhero.
Sit back and relax. We're going to be talking about, okay, our first issue, The Promenade Principle. All right, recklessly written by Mariano Nicieza, hastily penciled by Pete Garcia, loosely inked by Montcuse, McConnell, and Lowe, lackadaisically lettered. Now, I'm just reading this from the comic, folks. I'm not
That's what I
bashing
was
these
going
guys.
to say, man. These aren't even like fun like King Kirby or Stan the Man Lee. Like, they're just like, listen, we shitted this out, guys. We just fucking like, I had other things to do, had to turn it in at 7 p.m., started at 6:46. These are just like incredibly pejorative, even for Marvel, where they kind of make fun of themselves. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
Like these seem harsh, even for a realm where they poke a little fun at themselves.
Quickly colored by Joe Caponsaco.
Joe, you did great.
Yeah, did fine. Don't beat yourself up so much.
Yeah, Joe.
Scott Lang, experimenting with some vibranium alloy at Four Freedoms Plaza, an energy discharge occurs, awakening an ancient evil called Dromedon. He soon begins to wreak havoc across the city, prompting the Thing and Black Panther to leap into action. They soon find they are outmatched when Dromedon unleashes a powerful psychic attack that causes the two to fight each other. After picking up a disturbance on Cerebro, Professor X and Jubilee arrive to join the battle, and soon, Professor X is able to free the Thing and Black Panther from Dromedon's control. We learn that Dromedon was created by the Deviants to fight the Eternals and was awakened. Boy, yeah, this was a deep cut. It was created by the Deviants
especially
to fight
for the time. There's one Eternals comic in the 1990s.
They do fight Apocalypse in it, though. I'd like to point that out.
Oh, okay. All right. Was created by the Deviants to fight the Eternals and was awakened by Lang's experiment. While the Thing keeps Dromedon occupied, Professor X guides Black Panther to a device called the Neutralizer Helmet. One final attack by all the heroes, and Black Panther is able to put the helmet on Dromedon, sealing him back underground. Teamwork has won the day, which, by the way, they just throw his ass in a hole and cover it up. Come on.
Which, by the way, I read
the
once.
Juggernaut.
No, that's different. They bury the Juggernaut in cement, and they do that at the Javits Center, which is on the water. That's fine. But you burying like off-brand Doomsday here in like a random middle of the street, it's like he's going to get hit by a subway. He's going to be back in action in like a week. Like, are you kidding me? Like, you know how far down?
Somebody will find a dude, like some fucking utility worker is going to take this helmet off this guy, and you're going to be right back at it.
Con Ed is going to be like, what are you doing down here? Why are you down here? We told you not to come down here. And then the whole thing is going to start all over again.
All right.
Listen, if it wasn't that guy, something else would be fucking up the fucking MTA anyway. What do you want? What do you want here?
Yeah, that's fair.
Next story. Call of the Wild, written by Chris Cooper, penciled by Bob Gordon, inked by Ernie Chan, letters by Jim Novak and Steve Dutro, colored by Joe Caponsaco. Namor, that's right, Submariner, happens upon a tanker leaking oil off the coast of Alaska. And as the tanker explodes, Namor is able to save the men aboard, but gets caught in the blast. Meanwhile, Storm...
Imperious Rex.
Storm, who is high in the sky, ends up closing a hole in the ozone. The Incredible Hulk is actually at this same time at a nuclear facility, stopping a meltdown. And Wolverine happens to be stopping some poachers that are out there. All right. Now, as Namor awakens, he meets Storm, who appeared to extinguish.
All of that is plausible except Storm closing the ozone, right? The Hulk, like shutting down a nuclear reactor, sure. Wolverine, like in the jungle, being like, "No, you're not hunting the beast. I'm the beast within." Blah blah blah. The best there is, sure. And then fucking Namor being like, "Hey, don't pollute my goddamn ocean."
That's expected, right?
But the Storm's just like, "I'm just gonna go close this hole in the ozone." I don't know enough about like meteorology or atmospheric science to know, but I don't think you can just lightning a hole in the ozone.
No, I'm struggling.
I just want to get that clear right now. I don't want anybody to listen to this and think that Bill Nye the Science Guy is giving them some kind of like lesson. It's not what's happening here.
No, it is not. So Namor awakens after, he got caught in that blast, and he meets Storm, which apparently this is the first time he's met her, and he is quite smitten. And I mean quite smitten with Storm. And she helps him by extinguishing the fire from this explosion. So he looks to get to know her a little better, but they are soon interrupted by a battle between Hulk and Wolverine below, tearing the city up around them. Now, if anything's going for this comic, we got Wolverine versus the Hulk, folks.
Yes, we do. Yes,
All right.
we do.
The two intervene, looking to calm things down, and finally succeed. They soon find out what caused their friends to fight. A trio of vengeful northern gods upset that humans have poisoned their realm. And I would say upset, they're actually kind of driven crazy by what's been going on in regards to the pollution. How that operates,
they look like a cross between like The Walking Dead and like the fucking old witch from the Haunted Pier.
Yeah, the whole plot of this Northern Gods of the Waste nonsense is like, you guys remember those Snicker commercials where it's like, you're not yourself, eat a Snickers, and then it's like Joe Pesci turns into Gal Gadot or some nonsense. That's what happens here, right? Like there's like three old crones at a Macbeth, and they I don't know, they once killed Snowbird, and then like
I was gonna say, I feel like this is an Alpha Flight plot.
Oh my God, these issues, these things, these are so many. I have so many questions.
How about how like they get Namor as like close to just fucking Storm as they possibly can in a like code approved giveaway comic?
He is like
Namor's
Gomez
like, hey,
Adams,
we just
dude.
met. How about we do it? Like he's like the Carly Rae Jepsen of the Marvel universe. Like, here's my number. Call me maybe. What the fuck? Actually, he's more the Doors. Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name? Because he is ready. He is ready. He's he's like, you must be royalty. Oh, I was much worse than as a goddess. Of course you were.
Can I just say that if someone wrote a comic where Storm and the Submariner went on a date, I wouldn't exactly be surprised. Like not
at all.
Yeah, when Namor really wants to impress people, he can turn on the freaking chart. Like that's part of his character since the 40s. And Storm is like really comfortable dating. And Black Panther, Thor, Forge, Logan, like she's not exactly shy. So if you told me the two of them were going out, I'd be all for it.
Oh, sure. I would. It's just funny how like quick he is on it here.
Oh, on it. Yeah.
Because it's funny because like this is always something he does. Like if you go back and read the Silver Age stuff, like he's in love with Sue Storm the second he sees her. Yeah. Then like other ladies he meets, like he's like, oh, that's the one for me and everything. And like it's just funny that like every time this guy sees an attractive lady, it's like he has never seen one before. It's like he's only read about attractive women in like books, and this is the first time, so he better just get on this right now. May never have another chance.
This is written by Chris Cooper, and it's just throwing this out here. You guys tell me if you're like, oh, okay, well that kind of jives. His writing resume, first ever issue that he, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, that he wrote a story in Namor the Submariner annual #1. Okay. Then does some Marvel Comics Presents, but then do you guys recognize the name Chris Cooper at all?
Yeah, I know who he is. Like he's the gentleman who I believe the lady said in Central Park that like it was a couple years back. It was right around the George Floyd tragedy and everything, and like she said that like he was threatening.
Oh my goodness, that's him.
And like that was Chris Cooper's the guy who she was like. You'd be racist toward and making a false accusation toward.
Jesse, do you have any idea what we're talking about?
No, I have no fucking clue. I need you guys to tell me that story one more time. What the fuck are you talking about?
There was a woman who was in Central Park, and she saw Mr. Cooper. I think he was bird watching, if I remember the story correctly. I don't know. They got into some altercation.
She didn't have her dog on a leash, from what I understand. Right. That's what and he was like, "You need to put your dog on a leash," and she's like, she went full racist Karen on it.
Yeah.
That's Chris Cooper is African American. He's a black guy.
Oh, that's shitty.
I did not realize. I did not make that connection. Thank you for that.
I believe it's the same guy because it came out that he had worked for the Marvel around this time, doing mostly editorial stuff, a little writing. I don't know how many other Chris Coopers there could be at Marvel around this time. I could be wrong, but I'm 97% sure they're the same guy.
Well, I was going to, as far as writing,
I'm like, do you recognize him? And I'm like, yeah, for something that you weren't going to mention.
the specific news item, and I'm like, what the fuck? Not just talking about writing here, man. The Dark Hold, pages
I was
from
about
the
to
Book
say,
of
didn't he write
Sins.
Darkhold?
Yep. Yeah, he wrote Darkhold. So yeah, these three northern gods show up. They're upset because humans have poisoned the earth, and now they look to enlist supervillains. So what they've done is they tricked Hulk and Wolverine into fighting each other so they could tear up the city. And that was their plan of getting back at at humanity. But now they realize, oh, this didn't work out so well. So we're going to go talk to some supervillains instead. That should work a little bit better. Well, of course, Hulk, Wolverine, Storm, and Namor are going to try and stop them. Storm determines they cannot beat them by force and sees that the gods could use some cleansing from the poisons of man. So she causes it to snow, curing them of their rage.
Nasty ass gods apparently don't wash themselves.
And boy, when they do, they finally get in their right mind, and the gods plead with the four heroes to understand that humanity must change their ways, or the earth and all that occupy it are doomed. And off they go. So that is Call of the Wild. Now let's get into issue 3.
Not to be confused with the critically acclaimed novel.
Right. Correct. Issue 3, titled The City Above, The City Below. Joe Cavalieri writing, Mike Gustovich penciling, Greg Adams inking, and Janice Chang lettering. Jim Hostin on colors. So just real quick, to let everybody know, this story takes place between Daredevil 324 and 325. Dean Compton, tell them why that's important.
Shit, I don't remember the Fall from Grace storyline.
Fall from Grace. That's right.
Yeah, that would have been the
Grace.
fall from Grace around that time. So
yeah, those issues are chapter 5 in the fall finale of Fall from Grace. So Sam Wilson takes a young man by the name of Tim Meadows to Matt Murdock's law offices because Tim Meadows has been accused of burning down an abandoned apartment. Sam Wilson decides to go on his own as Falcon and assist the young man, trying to find some evidence to exonerate him, while Matt Murdock's going to try and do the same. Falcon finds a coat that may have been planted at the scene to implicate Tim and his friends. Another piece of the puzzle comes together when Falcon finds evidence that agents of Hydra were there and most likely burnt the place down. Falcon reaches out to Captain America for some assistance. Daredevil goes to the remains of the building, and there he finds a secret entrance leading to a Hydra base and is soon joined by Captain America, Falcon, and the Wasp. During the battle, the team gets wind of a generator that Hydra plans to use in order to cripple New York. One well-placed toss of Cap's shield and the generator is no longer a threat. Sometime later, it is reported that the charges brought against Tim have been dropped due to the courageous acts of our heroes. Also, Janet Van Dyne donates some money to Tim's neighborhood for a nice community center. So there you go. That is issue number 3. We've learned so much in that issue, and we're going to go to issue 4, Blowing Smoke. Written by Evan Skolnick, art by Tom Morgan, lettered by Janice Chang, colors by Hostin and Kopensako. Here we go. Some young kid goes ballistic when he doesn't get carded by buying cigarettes, destroying the small convenience store he is at. Continuing his rampage, the young man, which, by the way, if I knew his name, I'd put it in the synopsis. This young man is so upset about his mother passing away because of smoking and the cancer that it caused. But he is going about it the wrong way. He's rampaging through the neighborhood, and he is destroying. He's obviously he's got powers. He's able to, he's destroying these places. He tears into another store and he runs into Spider-Man. Now, this is where Spider-Man talks to him, and he finds out that the kid lost his mom to cancer caused by smoking. Spider-Man soon gets some help from the Human Torch, Iron Man, and Firestar. Sending Torch and Firestar to do damage control, Spidey and Iron Man confront the out-of-control kid and begin to talk to him. Kid doesn't believe it was fair that his mom was taken because of her addiction. Iron Man empathizes as he once fought his own demons. Things finally die down, and the young man surrenders, realizing his lashing out was the wrong way to handle his anger. That's where we end Blowing Smoke. So there are all 4 of the Real Heroes issues.
It's important to note that every one of these had like a PSA focus. Issue 1 was about prejudice, and issue 2 is about the environment, and issue 3 is about community service. It's funny that Wasp is like, I do community service by being rich. And issue 4 is about addiction. So I think that like all of our criticism should be filtered through that lens, that like it can be pretty hard to get those kind of things across. Now, Darry, drag 'em.
Yeah.
I as someone who learned about all of life's complicated issues from 80s PSAs that aired at the end of G.I. Joe, I am 100% down with very special issues. I'm sure this would have made a big impact on me, but these 4 issues are freaking wild. I was not expecting the Eternals' weird old bioweapon to show up.
Right.
I wasn't expecting like Jubilee and Professor X to be the only 2 X-Men available to like quell a riot in the middle of everything. Yeah, the whole
Isn't it overkill in the last issue too, where it's like this kid's going a bit of a rampage? This kid who got superpowers presumably 18 minutes ago. So this will take Spider-Man, Iron Man, Firestar, and the Human Torch. 3 decided A-listers to deal with him, and Firestar, who I like, who I think is a solid B-lister. Honestly, I don't mean
Can
that.
I just say?
I don't mean that pejoratively. Go. I'm done with my point. Go on.
The worst thing about real heroes, and I don't mean to say that they are bad, because they're not. They're really not. They're just freaking wild. Is for this 4th issue, the one about addiction. You have Firestar, you have Spider-Man, you also have Iron Man, but whatever. Why use the Human Torch? Why not use Iceman? Why not?
Wanted the same thing.
Right? Why not get that sweet ability to have an amazing friends reunion? Your mom's the one who's buying this for you anyway. She might be like, oh man, I remember that cartoon. We watched that together, and pick that up. Instead, you have the Human Torch, who has no lines, no history with addiction, and doesn't do anything because freaking Firestar can do everything he can do.
Iceman doesn't have any issues with addiction either, but like if you've got to have 4 guys, he makes more sense, and at least he's a mutant. He can be like, yeah, I know what it's like to feel bad, but he can also be like, but we don't even get a mascot. Puffin-Bird, cool as fuck. I love Puffin-Bird and would like wear a shirt with Puffin-Bird on it. The mascot of smoking in the Marvel universe, much like Big Belly Burgers is the mascot of obesity in the DC universe.
I gotta say though, this definitely would have made an impact on me, because I was definitely one of those kids that had a lot of someone in the family smokes, and we got a toy or something with one of the mascots. Let's give it to the kids. That totally in my house. So the Puffy the cigarettes, if I'd gotten this a kid, I would have been like, wait, what is the message here? I'm not 100% sure. So that definitely landed with me as something that
when I was growing up, my mom smoked, my dad smoked, my stepdad smoked, my older sister smoked, my grandma smoked, my step grandma smoked, my step-aunt smoked, my older sister smoked, my little brother would smoke. Everybody but me smoked, but I did have the best bag Marlboro Miles could buy.
Exactly.
I did not smoke. Yeah. And it was a good bag. I had that bag for like 2 fucking years. Like they made some good shit at the expense of probably a lot of people having cancer. I would give the bag back for none of them to have had cancer. But I do want to say, like, I empathize, and it's really hard to make it out of that environment without smoking cigarettes. I did drugs, but I never smoked cigarettes.
I love this kid so much. He's got the backwards.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. Oh man, he's got the backwards baseball cap, he's got the flannel, he's got the generic energy crackle, he's got long hair and it's white for some reason. He's just going around blowing up bodegas because you sell the cancer sticks. Like, I love it because it's one of those things where
it wasn't even that they sold it; it's that they didn't card him. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah, right. You know
what I mean? Like, even like you could almost be like, hey, you can't just go blow up the fucking Walgreens because they sell cigarettes. Yeah. Like, you can't blow up every gas station in the world because they sell cigarettes. We need a different thing. I'm not saying you should blow up people for not carding, but this is like for a guy whose like mom just died of cancer because she smoked. That's a very small thing to ask. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's like, fuck, you won't even card a kid? Like, I am obviously 14. You just described his outfit. There's no way like a 19-year-old is wearing that. Come on.
It's funny too, because when I was reading this, all I could think of is that if this exact story in issue 4 were told today, this kid would be the hero. Like, kid would be written as the protagonist all the villains would be wrong. Tom Taylor would give this kid 6 issues where he is going to the corporate headquarters of everyone who sells tobacco products and just absolutely making a social
Annihilating
point. And it would be like heavy-handed nonsense throughout. And Spider-Man would have to be like, I guess you're right. I guess you care about this more than I do. Well, you know, Mary Jane's at home being like, I just need not to smoke until I get pregnant. If I can just get to the Mayday point in the story, we're all good. And then everyone's going to have clones. And then Quesada's going to ban smoking anyway, even though Kirby smoked until he was in the ground. So
I like how he's also like, Spider-Man's like, listen, I understand how you feel. My like super hot supermodel wife used to smoke and she's alive. We're the same. Like, I know your mom is dead, but like, this is I empathize. Like, I get it.
You see, we're simpatico here.
Right.
The best is Iron Man, who's like, oh yeah, I was mostly boozed by volume. He's piloting like the world's most advanced weapon of mass destruction, and he's telling this kid like, oh yeah, I used to drink a lot. I'm better now. Don't worry about it. Like, but what you're doing is absolutely wrong. And this kid's like, are you guys kidding me with this? Like,
Right. See, I think when it comes down to, honestly, when it comes to smoking, like, obviously, like, yeah, you probably shouldn't smoke or dip or whatever, but it's about choice. For a lot of people, as weird as this sounds, especially mentally, about like people who deal with mental illness like I do, it's self-care because it gives you something to focus on that is not your mental illness and stuff like that. If people want to smoke, that's fine. But yeah, you should card kids and we should be transparent, and we probably shouldn't have logos that attract 12-year-olds because Joe Camel here is just like the coolest guy ever. Like, the only thing that wasn't cool, that was cooler than Joe Camel, who also was not cool in the 90s, were those like Bugs Bunny, like fucking Daffy Duck, like now they're in like Pulp Fiction shirts, like or the ones where like they're wearing like all the chains and stuff. Like, who thought that was cool? But they were cool. Like, people liked them then, just like they liked the Joe Camel shit. But that stuff hasn't, neither of it's aged well. But it's all about choice. It's all about choice. Give people information. Let them make a choice. That's all this kid wanted. These kids are too young to make a choice. I'm blowing up your bodega. I hope he spared the bodega cat. I like bodega.
What a weird way to get across an anti-smoking message. Like, how fucked up is that, man?
Have y'all ever read the God, what was it? It's like Spider-Man, Storm, and Power Man fight Smokescreen. It was like a giveaway anti-smoking. It's also wild. Like, I don't remember exactly what happens, but Smokescreen is an actual villain who I think is somehow trying to get more kids to smoke. It is hilarious, and I think more, like you said, not as weird as this somehow.
This thing takes like a left turn right after the first page, because I thought this kid's going to walk in there and there is going to be like a robbery or something like that. And no, this kid is the aggressor.
Maybe a pizza.
Yeah, maybe. I was like, oh, he's going to, and then he just goes off the deep end and he's like blowing shit up because he didn't get carded.
The only kid in history who was upset that they didn't get carded, by the way, for cigarettes.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, this is the only, like, you can tell this is a very hello fellow kids moment.
What he should have done is been like, oh, can I get a case of beer too? And then walked out of there and drowned his sorrows.
That guy apparently would have let him. That guy would have sold him like a fucking like rocket launcher. He did not give a shit.
I feel like people didn't really card before 9/11. Like, it was just like, what do you want? Fine, here, whatever. As long as you're paying cash, I don't care.
In New York, they that may be true, but like in 2000 in Arkansas, there was a super effort to make people card because I worked at convenience stores, and they tried to sting me once, and they did not get me.
Did they?
Nice. Oh,
they were like, you come in. It was like this like 14-year-old young lady, and she's like, "Can I get 2 packs of Marlboro Lights?" And I was like, "I need to see an ID, possibly an ID for each pack." And
yeah.
She threw her hands up and like went outside, and then this cop walked in, and he bought the cigarette. And like, I carded him too, because you had to card people. The law was like 27 or below if you thought they were 27 or below. And so, like, apparently I learned from my manager, because it all gets reported, they have to buy the cigarettes in Arkansas, or they did then, as part of a sting for like wasting our time.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
So I don't know what happens to these cigarettes, but that guy came in and bought them. Or maybe they just send out officers who smoke. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Officer Stevenson, he's big on those Marlboro Lights. Get him to sting those places. But like, you would get, like, the place would get a $5,000 fine, and you would get a $1,000 fine personally. So In Arkansas, it was a big deal. You carded a lot of people.
Jesus.
And if you carded the right lady, they were just really appreciative anyway. So I would
There
like
you
flirt
go.
with some ladies. Like, let me see your ID. I'm very smooth. I work at a sit-go.
I will say that this fourth issue is probably my favorite, and I understand the central message that they were trying to get across was the anti-smoking, but I really think that there was in a not so subtle way getting across a message about dealing with grief, because that kid lashing out like they are, I mean, you can easily see that that's how a kid's going to react, even though they're not going to be blowing up stores, but they're going to lash out in a less intensive way. Especially, you'll see that a lot with people who have lost somebody who they loved. So, but yeah, I mean, we didn't even get the kid's name. Like, we don't even get this kid's name throughout this whole thing, which I think is unfortunate. But it's
In
not
my
like
head canon, his name is Zach. Because I can't remember, but like I think like a year or two after this, there's like an anti-weed smoking Spider-Man insert, and there's a kid named Zach in it. And so like,
oh man, I
think Zach is like almost like kills himself trying to like grab a mole. You know, it's really great stuff.
Oh my God, yes.
So in my head canon, these are the same guy. I know they're not. There's no reason for them to be, but
I'll have to find that.
If no one from Marvel personally tells us that's not true, then, you know, in our hearts, Zach lives on.
Dromedon, by the way, Darry, you already mentioned it. Yeah, this Dromedon first appeared Eternals number 16, July of 1977, created by Jack Kirby.
The King! The King! Like, who was doing this Pizza Hut comic and is like, I'm only writing this one issue. I'm bringing back this obscure Kirby. I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. Like, even back then, I didn't know who the Eternals were. And this book is like, no, you are the Thing in Black Panther are absolutely going to fight in Turtle Bioweapon. I was just like, oh, these things are beautiful. For the worst reasons. Beautiful for the worst reasons. I'm looking randomly at issue 2 and flipping through them while you guys are talking. I, for the longest time, just assumed the Submariner always had a ponytail. And it wasn't until years later I realized that that was just an addition when I started reading comics.
Right.
And that he did not have it. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, that was the thing I thought was normal. That's all. Nothing to add.
It was like the Punisher's ponytail, just here, then gone.
Was that when he was like...
Yeah, when he was a mobster. Yeah, when he was Steven Seagal, mob lord. I was going to say my favorite issue, honestly, is issue 3, because I am a Mike Gustovich mark. He created the Justice Machine, which is I really like that comic book. I really like that concept. Yeah. And I think that like the best page of all is the one where like the Captain America and Falcon and Wasp and Daredevil are going after the Hydra guys. I don't know if it was the best story-wise, but that was my favorite like issue just because I enjoyed looking at it. And I'm never going to turn down a Hulk Wolverine fight. Like, you know, it's gonna be good. You know, I mean, like no matter what, it's like, you know, if you watch an episode of like, you know, your favorite cartoon, Spider-Man or X-Men, and you watch like you watch that weird X-Men episode where it's in the 1800s and like Darwin's talking to Mr. Sinister. Even that is better than like, you know, not having had an X-Men cartoon in your life. That's what I feel about Hulk Wolverine fights. Even the worst one is like better than the not having one. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to enjoy it. So that's what it was. And they're like, you got bone claws now. You'll never hurt me. And Wolverine says Wolverine stuff. And also like fucking Submariner gets to like box Hulk's ears. Great. It's like a Defenders comic in one panel.
Listen, folks, if you tuned in and you're like, I'm trying to finish up the list of Hulk Wolverine fights, I guarantee you many people will not see this one listed anywhere else.
Yeah,
because
that's probably why it's hard to find.
Right. They're out there picking up all these. Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm selling them off the back of this truck. You better get them.
Hulk Wolverine, the 25th greatest fight.
I would like to say that I think the reason Dean loves that issue is because Batrock the Leaper shows up.
Yeah, the Leaper!
Yep.
But like, how dishonorable of Captain America to need Wasp to beat him? Just proving Batrock's point, he's as good as Cap. I mean, he's not, but this does not hurt his point.
I feel like if the chips were down, if there was like an alien armada, Batrock would be like, oh no, I'm teaming up with Cap. Like we're
for sure.
We're dealing with this. Like, you know, he jumps around, he punches people in the face, but at the end of the day, you know, he's a Frenchman. He ain't down with the Nazis.
Yeah,
but,
I just read the old the Captain America Epic Collection, Volume 1, that tells the suspense stuff. And like Batroc, yeah, when like there's the SHIELD agent's life is in danger, like he totally changes and helps Cap. And when like it turns out these bad guys are worse than he thought in another issue, he turns and helps Cap. So yeah, he just really likes to hang out with Captain America. That's really what's going on here. I understand. I'd like to hang out with Cap.
He's a performance artist. I get it. I like that about him. You need rogues like that. You know, not every villain's got to be like, I'm going to murder your children. You got to have a guy like Batroc who shows up and be like, have you learned any new moves? Because this is basically foreplay. But
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you, but I sure do kick. So watch out.
The thing that disappointed me the most of this entire thing, of all 10 issues, was there was no pizza themed thread. I went into this hoping at least at one point someone was going to do something, even if it was just an ironic wink and a nod, that involved pizza of some sort. At one point we get Jubilee saying she's going to order a pizza, I believe, at the end of the X-Men books, but that just seems to be like something she would say. She like lived in a mall or whatever. But these comics, they never, you know, a guy who works at Pizza Hut is not instrumental to saving the world or the city or any of that stuff. You know, they don't have to. These are straight up action adventure stories. So credit where credit is due. But part of me was just like, maybe like the shawarma scene at the end of the Avengers, like just have all the heroes sitting at a Pizza Hut at the end of the night. Something.
They should have fought that pizza guy from Food Fighters, that pizza action figure. Like from that line where there was also like the hot dog, the mean weenie, I think his name was. Could have fought that guy. I can't remember his name. It's like Sergeant Pepperoni or something. I had him. He had like a pepperoni eye patch. So, you know, he was tough.
That's great.
So they could have fought him. Where was he?
Yeah, nobody was drowning in like melted mozzarella. It would have been, that would have been great. Save this man.
Nobody even like was like, oh man, Magneto is like filling the crust of the earth, and he sure is stuffing that crust, but not as stuffed as the crust of Pizza Hut. Like they could have
little editor's notes on each panel, like, you know, that just pop in there and tell you about a menu item at Pizza Hut.
what I was at the end, or nobody can fucking afford it.
What I was thinking was Rick and Morty, the show, does this bit where their commercials are part of the canon. Like they acknowledge they're in a commercial and they're doing this nonsense for the money. And obviously that wouldn't have been something that a 90s Marvel comic would have done. But I almost wanted Captain America to be like, no, we have to be in this pizza commercial or else Baron Zemo controls the world tomorrow. This is play along. This is the only way we can get through it. And then, you know, he has to replace his shield with one of the tins, one of the trays, the pizza will come on.
Pizza tray.
That's it, man.
Honestly, no. It needs to be a pizza box because the logo's on there.
There you go. He nailed it, man. He nailed it.
It's like in Wayne's World when they hold that box up. You know, you got to get it right.
This isn't even like completely outside of the realm of possibility. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I was a huge Ninja Turtles fan. How many problems did those 4 child assassins solve with pizza? I feel like it was most of the problems.
A lot of them.
Yeah, right? They solved. Daredevil's even in this book. Like, I just wanted Daredevil to be like, I need some pizza. I don't know why, but I need pizza. I like the way it smells. Yeah, there you go.
Well, the real issue here is like all of these people are pretty, you know, like in that issue especially, they're all New Yorkers. They could not possibly say, "Oh, I would like some Pizza Hut," without, you know, being like, it's like disingenuous.
The only complaint I have about the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film, which is flawless, it's up there with Rashomon or Citizen Kane, is that at the beginning of the film,
things I hear often.
they get
Ninja Turtles, same conversation.
They get Domino's pizza, which is complete nonsense. I don't care how cheap it is. There's absolutely no way the Ninja Turtles living beneath the streets of Manhattan are getting Domino's pizza. I'm absolutely not. I'm sorry. That is the most unbelievable thing. I will believe there are giant mutant, possibly radioactive turtles who are also ninja before I believe. And a rat before I believe that they would order Domino's or over what must be 12 pizzerias above any manhole cover on the island.
Manhole.
Yeah, any manhole cover on the island of Manhattan.
I want to point out my favorite part of these 4 was me sending the picture of the guy running around in the Dramamine principle to you guys with his pants off. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is this like there are riots and this dude's running around with his pants off? And I'm like, this doesn't make a bit of sense, but that's hilarious. Look at that guy in the background with his pants off. And then it fucking pays off at the end. Like at the very end, he's standing there with his pants off and the narrator is like, some people don't want to remember what happened or something along these lines. I'm like, what happened to the guy? Why did he lose his pants? What events led to this? And I'm concerned.
Do you really want to know?
No, I don't.
I mean, like, honestly, like, I'm not sure that I care to know. What I want to do is get some goddamn bands on.
Agreed.
But at the same time, like, it's New York City. Nobody noticed. Nobody.
No,
he might be a little embarrassed, but nobody, whatever.
No one cared. No
like
one even looked at him.
down, somebody's pogo fucking vaulted on their dick. So I don't even, whatever this is. You'll have pants soon.
I like the fact that Janet Van Dyne is like, hey, I didn't know some people were poor. I am going to give a small portion of my apparently unlimited fortune to build an entire community center because I want a tax break. Right. That's just one of the.
That's straight up so mean.
I love Joe Cavallari's. I'm not trying to like pick apart this thing. I got to imagine that they were told this is going to be given away at Pizza Hut to kids. It's due tomorrow. So here are your characters. Okay. Right. It's got to have a social message. We've already been paid for it. It's just please get this down as quickly as possible.
Get it out there and don't fuck it up.
Yeah. And they cashed the check.
Straight. And like you said, a lot of times, I think a lot of people in general don't know how long it takes to make a comic book. Like if you want to make a good one, it really takes like 6 to 8 months. Yeah. And maybe a month or two longer then, but around that even then is what I would hear. Pizza Hut, they want a comic book. They may want it in like June and it is February.
Yeah.
Because they're not in the business of making comic books. They make pizza, delicious pizza.
But also, you get a hold of this thing and they had to think, well, no one's going to read this again, right? It's going to be given out at Pizza. It's not going to be collected. We can't reprint it. Pizza probably owns some whatever. It's just going to be this thing that was done and everyone moved on with their lives. So I understand like not necessarily putting your best foot forward. Again, it's not bad. Like the thing wraps up. The kid is proven innocent. The heroes team up. There's some great art and you get to see the Fall from Grace costume, which again, I feel like fell out of favor the second this thing hit the stands.
There are too many things that just make me go, what is going on? Why did they do this? Now, I agree with you. She's going to.
I want to ask, like, when does she have to take the flack that, like, Bruce Wayne has to take? Like, why doesn't he clean up Gotham with his money? Why doesn't Janet Van Dyne clean up the Marvel Universe with her money?
No. You know what? I'm ready to
I don't really care about it. Like, I think this is all like nonsense.
Yeah.
And I think there's plenty of proof that all the rich guys in the superhero universes actually do a bunch of good stuff with their money. But like, it's really just a weird nonsense thing because like, they're like, Bruce Wayne how much money does he have? As much as he needs to for the story. But I do think it's funny that it's always Bruce Wayne and Tony Stark. But like, there are other rich guys, right?
But even past that, like for the last 50 years since they introduced it, Batman is constantly like, I am the second or third wealthiest man on the planet. I give all my money to either crime fighting or the foundation. The Wayne Foundation is probably the most well-funded, not-for-profit entity that exists in the DC universe. It's just Gotham is so bad that you can try to fix these things and it could spend an entire lifetime. That's not fiction. That's reality. Like just because he's...
Well, I think that there are other things that, I don't know that has to be reality, but I think ultimately the more we get Batman away from punching muggers and the more he punches Two-Face, the more it makes sense. If you're arguing, you're like, oh, somebody has to go and kick these fucking muggers in the nuts. What you're really saying is you want somebody to abrogate civil liberties and just do whatever. Yeah. But if you're like, somebody has to stop this psychotic, murderous clown and his fear-making scarecrow-looking partner, well, then Batman should go kick him in the nuts.
I'm never one for those stories where like Batman has to use his, $1 million supercar to go stop a purse snatching. But all the stories where it's like, we have an unsolvable crime. You're the smartest detective in the world. Can you help us figure this out and take down someone who really deserves it? Or to your point, one of the criminals who's been attracted here by the fact that you took out normal crime, like some super predator, is here murdering children. Could you please deal with him so we can go back to dealing with the normal crime that a city of 10 million people would have? And then on the Marvel side, it's like, yeah, but the second Tony Stark got his nonsense in order and dug Captain America out of the ice, what did he do? He's like, the Maria Stark Foundation is going to fund the Avengers. So next time the Skrulls show up, you guys are going to be ready to deal with it. I mean, that's just been a constant since 1964. So I hate these arguments where it's like, oh, these wealthy people don't do anything with their money. It's like, who do you think pays for the Quinjets? It's like,
you can go a step further with Tony Stark too, because most of the movies in the comics, he stopped funding armaments. He no longer wanted to He's like, I don't want my name to be associated with killing people, to the point where he went and took all of his shit back because he was like, you can't have it anymore, even though I sold it to you fair and square. You know what I mean? So, but anyhow, she gives money. She thinks that is community service. I'm not saying it necessarily isn't, but it's wild that she's like, oh yeah, I guess I could just give you guys some money.
These are 4 comics. They're not terrible.
They are 4 comics.
They are weird. I had not read them. I did not have Real Heroes when I was a kid. I only had the X-Men ones. I don't know what was going on in 1994, but I didn't make it back.
You were too busy eating all of that real Italian.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were too busy having real pizza. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to tell you, but
these X-Men comics, these Real Heroes comics, way at Mariano's or what. But the one thing I want to say that I think is underrated about these 4 issues, honestly, is on the inside covers, you got a nice bio of every character in there. So you didn't have to have this like clunky dialogue of like, oh, you're so-and-so. Like there's a little of it, but not really. And it also told you where you could see these characters. Hey, Captain America's in the Avengers and his own book. Falcon's in Avengers and Marvel Masterworks. Wolverine is in Wolverine and X-Men. I really think that shouldn't be glossed over, that while these were supposed to be certainly community issue driven books, social issue driven, they were still trying to get people to pick up these books. And honestly, how often do you see somebody be like, hey, you might be interested in Firestar? She's in the New Warriors. It's one of the few times you're going to see somebody like reach out. Even Namor wasn't getting that kind of treatment, this kind of treatment at this time. So it was nice to see some characters like Wasp and Firestar, who incidentally are women characters, who like they were trying to get them to read some of those books as opposed to the normal guys. It's the promo comics you see are usually people that are in teams and concepts that are already over. Cool to see them try and get some like peripheral people over, and especially trying to get some women over in a very testosterone laden era. So that's really the only other point I think that I didn't latch on to as y'all were making points. It's like you said, they're weird, but I think they're totally worth a buck if you find them. What I recommend highly, and which I wish I could have done, get some pizza. Get you a pizza, personal pan pizza. Get 2 because you're big now, and read all these comics. Right. And it will just be. You will honestly feel young again in a way that you might not get by reading comics off the rack at that time.
I like it.
That was our coverage of Pizza Hut comics, Real Heroes. We got the Collector's Choice and the Collector's Edition comic books. You got to hear it from us, and go out there, see if you can find them. See if you can find some out in the wild. This might be, the next thing that you're going to try and find.
Maybe they'll make a movie about Beacon.
Oh, do it. Dean Compton, let's talk about the Unspoken Decade. We're getting to plugs here, buddy. Tell them all about it.
1990s, baby. We're doing that over the unspokendecade.com. There's always articles. There's always neat stuff. On our Facebook, we are getting getting active on Twitter. I'm going to log into the Instagram again one day, I swear, but I have not done it in a while. But we'll get back on there. So find us at Unspoken Decade, either of those places. Come talk to us. Tell us what you think about, all the stuff we're posting, and even these podcasts. That's really it. We're having a great time, and we're gonna have this party as long as we can. The 90s will live forever.
Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us tonight. You're listening to this podcast on the Source Material Comics feed, which is part of the W2M network. We have all sorts of comic book podcasts on this feed, mainly this show, Unspoken Issues. You can go back into the archive, find we're over 70-some episodes right now of Unspoken Issues, I believe. Also, the Source Material Comics feed. We're not strictly 90s over there. But anyway, all right, let's get out of here. We've been talking a long time. That's Dean Compton. That's Darry Waite. I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Rattleitch Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.
Due to Hank Pym experimenting with some vibranium alloy at Four Freedoms Plaza. It is Four Freedoms Plaza, right? It's not the Baxter Building at this point. It's Four Freedoms Plaza, right?
Four Freedoms Plaza.
Thank you.
Wait, is that like Hank Pym? Did they say that?
Pretty sure it's Hank Pym. I better double check.
It was Scott Lang because he was in the Fantastic Four.
No, it's Scott Lang because he was on the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's what I said. He was in the Fantastic Four at this time.
I'm glad you guys are here. I thought it was Hank.
Oh no,
Pym.
I don't care if you had. I would not have. I would not.
I fucking wrote it. It's the wrong dude.
These were rough, gentlemen. My brothers, these were rough. No, I would not have corrected you. I got a lot of questions on these. A lot of questions on these four comics.
I'm a Scott Lang mark, so.
Excuse me. I like Scott, the least objectionable character that is in any way connected to Hank Pym. I love Scott Lang. My favorite MCU moment is when he hands his daughter the bunny, the weird little bunny, and then she goes, "I love it," and he just smiles. I'm like, that's it. That is all I wanted from this entire cinematic experience. So no, I love Scott Lang.
Scott Lang, due to Scott Lang experimenting with some vibranium.
No, you know what? I'm not done. I want to talk about more of why I love Scott Lang. Dude, the guy, his daughter is kidnapped. He's a single dad or whatever. He's an ex-con. He decides, I'm going to steal Hank Pym's superpowers, save my kid, and then when that is done, I'm going to turn myself in. And Hank Pym, Marvel Comics' worst superhero, is like, you did 2 selfless acts in one day with my shrinking technology. You're already a better Ant-Man than I will ever be. You keep that nonsense. You go out there and you be my legacy. That man's got 3 movies to his name. Michael Douglas is barely in them. I love Scott Lang. I love him so much. I was just gonna say I love him as much as I hate Gambit. I do. I love Scott Lang so much. I love him.
He was one of the characters when I was trying to get back into comic books when they were handing the Marvel Universe over to Bendis. And when he died in Avengers Disassembled, he was one of those like, why would you kill this guy? Like, of all the,
we got his daughter to become a superhero.
Oh, become Stature. Yeah, that was great. Don't get me wrong. I like that. But, like, it was just... there's a whole thing that, like, I don't like Brian Michael Bendis, and we shouldn't talk about it. We should continue to talk about real heroes. Because Brian Michael Bendis ain't never given me no pizza.
Oh, shoot. Matt Murdock is approached by a young man named Tim Meadows, not the Saturday Night Live Tim Meadows.
I thought the same thing.
No, it's the same guy.
Name to have chosen.
Tim Meadows shows up and he's playing
Star of the Ladies Man.
Ladies Man. He's the Ladies Man. He's accused of burning down an abandoned apartment. Falcon is also assisting, trying to find evidence to exonerate Tim, and discovers that a coat may have been planted there to implicate Tim and his friends. Another piece of the puzzle comes together when Falcon finds evidence that agents of Hydra were there and most likely burnt the place down. Falcon reaches out to Captain America for some assistance. Daredevil, now mind you, I think these guys are like, they're not working together at this point. I think Daredevil's trying to help him out.
They
and
are, but
Falcon,
they don't know it.
There you go.
Because Sam Wilson is the Falcon and Matt Murdock is Daredevil.
Right.
Sam Wilson's the social worker who like brings the kid to Daredevil.
Okay. Oh, I didn't even catch that. Why did I not even catch that? Wow.
Because apparently you don't smoke enough weed while you're reading these comics like I do.
He even probably introduces himself as Sam Wilson, doesn't he?
I believe so.
Are you sure that isn't Hank Pym? Son of a bitch.
Not. It's the guy from the Carnage Madison Square Garden.
Oh, that guy.
Oh, man.
But it could be anybody else.
Yeah.
Oh,
my gosh. All right. Anyway.
Am I mistaken, Darry? Like, that does happen, right?
What?
That Sam Wilson is just bringing the kid to Matt.
Oh, yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. No, that's exactly how I read it as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they're working together before they even know they're working together.
Well, it was so funny because I'm sitting there reading this comic and I'm like, how the fuck is Falcon involved in this? Like, why did he all of a sudden show up? Well, yeah, right there, page 1, page 2. Yes. So, okay. All right. There we go.
What would you do without me?
Well,
you just be on here. You just be like, so listen, these comics, I don't know. I was good. I was busy thinking about Cyberforce, Cyblade. What a gal.
What a gal. What a gal. Okay, it does say it here. Thank goodness. Mr. Murdoch, I'm Sam Wilson, a social worker. I've come to ask if you do any pro bono work. Okay.
That's Falcon's thing. He's a social worker who still, does a lot of work in Harlem. I don't know New York geography, but how far apart, Darry, are like Hell's Kitchen and Harlem? Like, I don't know that very well.
I mean, you get there on a subway ride. They're not that far away.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So it just wouldn't be out of the ordinary for a social worker from Harlem to go to a known lawyer like Matt Murdock, who does a lot of pro bono work there.
Yeah, I was thinking it had more to do with the fact that, like, Matt Murdock is kind of well known for this type of
right. But there's listen, you're not going to Staten Island for anything. So, like,
for literally anything, there's absolutely no First of all, it's incredibly difficult to even get to Staten Island. I don't know how we got it from Jersey in the first place. Like, it's almost impossible to get to the freaking thing. But no, if you're going from Harlem to Staten Island, something has gone, a series of things have gone incredibly wrong in your life. Forget about the fire.
You're listen, if you have to join Hydra to keep from going to Staten Island, that's what you should do.
I'm pretty sure that if Hydra set up a base on Staten Island, they wouldn't have to hide it underground. They could probably just straight up rent a storefront at this point, and someone on that island would be like, well, it's nice to have the business in the area. I'm going to be quite honest with you.
Right. I want to apologize to the one person who listens to us from Staten Island. So.
Yes.
I'm not. You know who you are.
No, you heard me. You live in a dump. I'm sorry.
They cleaned up the dump. Now it's just the people you got to worry about.
Oh my God! Shots fired. So what else happened in this comic, Jesse?
Sam Wilson. All right, let's try this again. Sam Wilson.
He's the Falcon. You may not know this.
He was in the Avengers, baby.
He built that boat with Bucky. He built that boat.
We did a podcast tonight. I'll tell you that much. 2 hours.
3 hours.
I know, man. Closing in on it.
As long as we can, the 90s will live forever. Cable's better than Bishop.
I'm gonna have to pick a Bishop comic. Something though. XSE. That's what we're going next. XSE.
I will not read that direct.
Xavier Security Enforcers.
No.
With Shard and
yeah, baby.
Archer.
Is Fitzroy in it? I'm sure he is.
Oh, Fitzroy.
I'm sure he is.